Well, February is here, my friends. January has gone by. It has gone by so quickly. So, yeah, you guys know what time it is. Hello, everyone. Britton here, also known as Somoki Dude, and I'm back here today with a reading wrap up slash what I read in the month of January. This is basically the show where I do my wrap up and basically talk about all the books that I read during the month. Books, movies, TV shows, whatever. I will be talking about it today. And January actually proved to be a very productive month. It usually is, because I am off from school for part of the month, and I generally like to get the ball rolling for the year, and I definitely did. So I'm going to be discussing some of the books, comics, shows, and movies that I watched during the month. So I'll just stop yapping and get to the point, because I am really bad at just getting to the point. So, yeah, let's get into stuff I read during the month of January. So, let's go. First book that I read and completed is actually one that some friends of mine recommended to me. My friends Raph Blue Text and Liam from Liam's Lyceum in particular, and that is Spear by Nicola Griffith. I grew interested in this because I heard it was a really great retelling of Arthurian lore. I'm not really interested in Arthurian lore, but I have seen conversations that Raph had with Nicola Griffith, and I had read some parts of her books, and I thought she would be a writer that would appeal to me. I really, really liked this book, though. I thought it was beautifully written. I don't know if I understood all the references, but I really enjoyed how this book wrote about the Arthurian legend and England's history with myth. There's a lot of really interesting thematic material being played with in this book, such as England's history with myth and kind of the passing of the guard, if you will, of magic, going from kind of this pagan-like magic into Christianity, which is a kind of theme I've played with a lot this month. But I really enjoyed Spear. I don't know if I'd say I loved it, actually, but I really enjoyed Spear. I really liked its representation of people with disabilities in particular. I think it's Lancelot's character who has a limp. I'm not entirely sure. That's just kind of sad. I just read this book last month. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Really like Spear. I think Spear is a very good book, and it's a really good Arthurian retelling for anyone who's interested in that stuff. Also, the writing in this is beautiful. I mean, it is up there with Susanna Clark's prose style and Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. So, if anyone is interested in stuff like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, or American Gods, or even Arthurian stuff, give this book a crack. It's really, really good. And it also explores themes of LGBTQ plus people without being, how do I say this? Preachy or annoying about it. It's really well done. Very sensual language, as I mentioned before. And man, can Nicola Griffith write. So I commend you, and I do hope to read more of her books sometime in the future. I'm hoping they are as good as this one was. Second one I have is one I've been meaning to read for a while, and I thought would be an appropriate winter read. My friend Nick Horvath, who wrote the book Sledge, I finally picked up his book, Sledge versus the Labyrinth, which is a book about a very massive man named Sledge who has a sledgehammer, and he is basically this gigantic 7-foot behemoth of a man who will basically just wreck everyone who mildly pisses him off or irritates him or tries to get after the people that he loves. He's kind of a modern-day Conan the Barbarian, as John Douglas would put it. There are people who've compared him to Jack Reacher and some of these other kind of pulpy-like characters, though I think John's comparison to Conan is very, very apt. But I really enjoyed this book a lot. I really liked I really liked the lean, clean storytelling. There's not really a lot that is left out here. And it's also just damn fun to read. This is probably the most fun I've had with a book in a while. Sledge is a really fun character. I do appreciate that Nick Horvath doesn't turn him into this kind of superhero kind of character, though it is kind of like a superhero story in a way, because Sledge is this very larger than life character. He was like a CIA operative at one point. He played basketball at one point, was very good at it before, injury ruined that. That even actually plays a part in this book, though I won't spoil exactly what that means. But I had a blast reading Sledge versus the Labyrinth, though. Really, really good stuff. Nick is a very good writer, and he's really good at action sequences as well. I really like the action sequences in here. There were a couple of gripes I would have with this book. With the book like this, I kind of expected there would be like big showdowns, big fights, and peak ownage. And there is a lot of ownage in this book, don't get me wrong. But I thought some of the fights would be a little more drawn out. I thought there would be like these epic showdowns. I would like to talk about that with Nick a little bit as the show goes on, but hopefully I'll get him back on this channel and we can talk about Sledge versus the Labyrinth, because he's a cool guy and he's very giving with his time. But I really enjoyed this book a lot. It's really a lot of fun. Very violent though, so if you're like squeamish towards violence and stuff like that, don't read this. It is not for the easily offended, or is it for people who are squeamish towards violence, because Sledge gets pretty nasty at times, and a lot of the people he goes up against also get very nasty at times. To quote Wolverine, what Sledge does, he does the best, but what he does isn't very nice. Anyway, Sledge versus the Labyrinth, I had a lot of fun reading this book. It's a pretty nasty and violent book, but it's a lot of fun, nasty and violent book. Really brought me back to a lot of the Robert E. Howard Conan stories that I really enjoy. And Sledge is definitely a fun kind of pulpy character who joins that tradition of Conan or Jack Reacher or even the Punisher for that matter. And Marvel, get Nick Horvath on the Punisher as soon as possible. Like, he would do great at it. Just do it. Just get him on the Punisher at some point. I know you're probably not going to watch this, but in the minor chance that you do, Marvel, Nick Horvath on Punisher, you have no excuse whatsoever. All right, moving on to the next book. The next book I have is a far more darker beast, a far more literary beast, I guess, and that is The North Water by Ian McGuire. This was a book that was recommended by Aaron Gwynn, who was an acquaintance of mine, who we're bonded over our mutual love of Cormac McCarthy. And I could definitely see fans of Cormac McCarthy enjoying this book. I really enjoyed this book a lot. Well, I don't know if enjoyed is the right word, but I found it was a very compelling book, I thought. A very compelling book about the duality of man, and not even just good versus evil, but also savagery and refinement, intelligence versus base, savage instincts. And Henry Drax is easily one of the most repulsive, disgusting characters I have come across in recent years. He is definitely, I wouldn't say he's up there, definitely there are McCarthy points. There are several lines in this where you could definitely pull from McCarthy, particularly the first line, "Behold the man," very much sounds like "See the child" from Blood Meridian. Though Drax is far more of a creature of impulse. He is a creature of habit. He's not necessarily the forces of evil that someone like a Judge Holden or Anton Chigurh can be. He's much more like Lester Ballard, who is much more of a human, kind of disgusting kind of character who is more human, but there's also this very authentic feeling that this guy is pure evil and you shouldn't, deal with this guy. But we also see the North Water deals with a theme that I really appreciate, which is the idea of people being stripped down to their most base savage instincts. You see it in stuff like Blood Meridian, Heart of Darkness plays with this concept, High Rise by J.G. Ballard plays with this concept, and Northwater really plays with this concept as well. We see our main character, a guy named Sumner, who is kind of a disgraced medic, and he kind of has to deal with the fact that he is in a world of intense savagery, but he also reveals a ruthlessness that even he himself did not know was there. I really like this story though. It moves really quickly. I really like how McGuire paces the story in this. There's not as much of the navel gazing that you might find in a McCarthy novel. As a matter of fact, I would probably say that this book is kind of like if Cormac McCarthy and Jack London met together and cooked up some evil, devious schemes together. They would probably make something like The North Water. It's very harsh, very disturbing. Bundle up because there are a lot of really evocative descriptions of the cold in this book. It's also quicker paced than Moby Dick. So if any of you are annoyed by Moby Dick and its ponderousness like I am, give North Water a shot. It's faster paced. So yeah, North Water, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good book. So let's put that down. I need to get a drink. All right, so next book I have, which was my final book that I completed during the month, and it was actually my first fantasy novel of the year. It was one of my pre-Tolkien reads that I will be doing this year, and that is, though technically it came out the same year as Fellowship of the Ring, so I guess it's not really pre-Tolkien. But anyway, The Broken Sword by Poul Anderson. This is a book I've wanted to get to for a long time. It came out the same year as Fellowship of the Ring, and if Michael Moorcock is to be believed, as he says right there, knocks Fellowship of the Ring out of the park. This is even better than Lord of the Rings. Do I think it's better than Lord of the Rings? No, I don't. But I do think this was a really interesting, well-written, really well-developed novel that deals with a lot of interesting themes. Kind of what I mentioned with Spear. There's that conflict between pagan and Christian values that really clash. And this was one of the first books, kind of like American Gods, that really deals with the idea that, like, all of these myths and stories and lores, all of them kind of coexist with each other. The prose style in this is also very well done. I really like the kind of lyrical, mystical approach that Poul Anderson went with here, though apparently he didn't really think very highly of it, and thought that and tried to change it in 1971, but a lot of the OG fans thought that this version, which luckily I have the original version, which came out in 1954, is the better one. It's kind of shocking that Poul Anderson wrote this when he was so young, because it is written with such an assured hand, and I really loved how he plotted the story. It's a very well plotted story, and just the evocative prose of this is also really well done. If you'll allow me to read a little bit of it. The witch sat waiting, alone in the bitter darkness. Presently something slipped through a rat hole and into her dwelling. Looking down into the shadowed floor, she saw her familiar. Thin and weary, the rat did not speak ere he had crawled up to her breast and drunk deep of her blood. Then he lay on her lap, watching her with hard little glittering eyes. "Well," she asked, "how went the journey?" "Long and hard and cold," he said. "In bat shape blown on a freezing wind, I fared to Elfhege. Often as I crept about Emmeric's halls, I came near death. They are beastly quick, the elves. And they knew I was no ordinary rat. But even so, I managed to spy on their counsels." There's a lot of stuff like that in this book, and I won't read the whole thing to you guys. I do recommend this book. The characterization could have been a little better in this. I do think there are bits of the characterization and tone. I think there could have been a little more depth to the characters, but overall, I was very pleased with The Broken Sword, and I think Poul Anderson's pretty good, so I'm hoping to check out some of his other books in the future. A lot of people are telling me to check out Three Hearts and Three Lions is what I think it's called, so let me know if I got that right in the comments, or if I didn't, correct me. I'm totally fine with that. So, yeah, Broken Sword was the last book that I completed in January, but let's get on to comics. So, as for comics, I only read one this month, and that is the first book of the Year of Lemire thing I'm doing on this channel, and that is Essex County by Jeff Lemire. This is really his breakout role. Not breakout role. He's not an actor. His breakout book, and it's one that a lot of people say is one of his best, and I could definitely see why. This comic is absolutely incredible. Jeff Lemire does slice of life very, very well. He manages to really capture the quiet desperation of small town life. I could be projecting there because I've never been particularly a country mouse, as they like to say. But I really love what he does here. Masterful storytelling here. The art isn't like the best thing in the world, but it's very competently paneled. I really love the panels and how Jeff Lemire panels his own artwork and kind of creates his own artistic voice. I mean, I don't know if it's as good as like Sweet Tooth or Roughneck, but the masterful storytelling in this book makes this comic well worth the read. It even has a introduction from the late great Darwin Cook, but I really enjoyed this comic a lot. My favorite part of this was probably Ghost Stories. This was close to getting a 5-star, and I could give it a 5-star in the future, so don't worry about that. But I really enjoyed how Lemire just makes you, again, kind of like with Roughneck, what I said in my Roughneck video, he almost makes it effortless how he gives you these characters, shows you their lives, and makes you feel for them by showing you their lives. And it's very masterful stuff, I think. And Essex County is really Jeff Lemire at his best. And how it comes together at the end, beautiful stuff. I really enjoy Essex County quite a bit. I am not a Canadian, so I can't really comment on the Canadianness of this. But I thought this was a really, really good comic and a really great way to start the Year of Lemire. Started it out with a bang. I do hope to have a review of this comic up at some point. Hopefully soon, but we'll see. But yes, Essex County was fantastic. Really great storytelling, and the art in it is also, again, an acquired taste. I'm not going to pretend that like Jeff Lemire is for everybody, but I do like how he panels quite a bit. He's really quite good at that. He's good at the what's the word? Symmetry. He's very good at symmetry through his paneling and how he kind of goes from one panel to the next. He also depicts movement very well too, so I really just adore this. And I like how he kind of plays with the medium a bit. There's like a part in this where there's like a collage of photos. Again, just really well done. Essex County, really good stuff. So, yeah. That is basically all I read during the month of January. So what did I watch? Well, I didn't watch a lot. I've been really bad at keeping up with movies and TV shows and all that, but I did watch some stuff. I watched the Bob Dylan movie, A Complete Unknown. I watched it with my dad, and I liked it. I thought it was a solid movie. Timothée Chalamet absolutely killed it as Bob Dylan. He actually looked a lot like him, which was creepy. Though he is more handsome than the real Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's kind of oh Lord, you know what? I won't go there. I won't try to describe him. But it's kind of a weird movie because there's a lot of it that feels really undercooked. Like there's just parts where Bob just like does things, and we don't really learn like why he feels the way he feels. And there's parts where he's just kind of being a dick, and you're just kind of like, you're being kind of a dick right now. And he's like, and then he goes right back to fucking writing his music. I don't know. I would call myself a casual Bob Dylan fan. So I can't say I know everything about the guy, but I thought it was a solid movie. Some great performances. Edward Norton as Pete Seeger was particularly well done. And Boyd Holbrook as Johnny Cash was phenomenal. I really like Walk the Line, which is the Johnny Cash biopic that James Mangold, who directed this movie, made a while back, which I thought was really good, and I do think is better than this movie. But I really enjoyed seeing Boyd Holbrook as Johnny Cash. He was just a lot of fun. He utterly disappeared into that role. I would love to see him again as Johnny in his own movie at some point, but maybe someday. But I thought this movie was fine. It didn't really blow me away. But yeah, what are you gonna do? It's a Bob Dylan movie, so it's not gonna satisfy everyone. Sad thing was, I had wanted it to be better than it was, but what are you gonna do? Next movie I saw a few weeks ago, and it was called Flight Risk. It has Mark Wahlberg and Topher Grace and some lady. I don't know her name. It was the next Mel Gibson movie, because Mel Gibson is kind of back making movies. He made Hacksaw Ridge about a decade ago, and now he's back. He's like, I'm going to do Flight Risk. Oh, God, how would I describe this movie? It's one of those weird things where, like, I thought it was fine. I could definitely see why people would hate it. But I will give Mel Gibson credit. He directed the shit out of this movie. He really emphasizes the claustrophobia of being in that plane dealing with a psychotic maniac. Though I will note, this is a very cheesy movie. It definitely was one that definitely would have been made in the 80s and 90s, and they probably would have gotten away with it more than they would now. Because now we watch a movie like Flight Risk, and we're just like, yeah, this just looks stupid. And there is some stupid stuff in this movie for sure. But I thought it was fine. I do like that Mark Wahlberg was really trying to, like, act in this movie, because usually he just does this, like, Mark Wahlberg thing. And unless you get him in something like The Departed, where he, like, really chews up the role, you're not really going to get anything out of him. Or The Fighter. I liked him in The Fighter. Flight Risk, he's a lot of fun. I enjoyed him, even though he's even though he's, like, balding. It's weird. I was telling my friend Jason about it. I'm like, I think you would hate it. You know what this movie reminded me of? It reminded me of Cliffhanger. Did any of you ever see that movie, Cliffhanger? It's in the 90s. Had Sylvester Stallone in it. And he plays like a mountain climber who's trying to, like, foil a terrorist plot. It kind of reminds me of that. Very cheesy, very tongue-in-cheek. Kind of on that ridiculous scale of something. But luckily, Mel Gibson is a very good filmmaker, so he made the movie look as good as it possibly could have been. It's basically a B- film of a very, like, D+ script. D script. How's that? But yeah, so that's what I watched. As for TV shows, I watched the first 2 episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which, again, I'm just kind of in this weird spot where, like, most everyone is just either or at it, and I'm just like, it's fine. Like, why are people hating on this? Like, I don't get it, you know? I mean, yeah, sure, it's kind of ripping off other Spider-Man media, like, definitely has that, like, character drama that made Spectacular Spider-Man so special. And it also has that kind of comic panel, like, animation, but it's not as well done as the Spider-Verse movies. But, it feels like Spider-Man, and I really like what they're doing so far. I really like how it kind of twists the Spider-Man myth a little bit. There are some things that they do that I'm like, but aside from that, I really do like the show so far. I like the voice acting. The people they got to play the roles are very good. The kid who plays Peter is very good, and they even introduce some new characters. One of the characters from The Runaways is in it as well, which is pretty cool. At least I think so. But, yeah, it's fine. I don't think it's that bad, just to quote Cosmonaut Variety Hour. You guys are just mean. It's not that bad. It's pretty good. Just give it a watch. It's fun. I mean, it's not Spectacular Spider-Man. Though, to be honest, I would have loved the Spectacular Spider-Man Season 3. That would have been really awesome. I mean, if you could do it with X-Men 97, you could do it with Spectacular Spider-Man. I mean, come on, guys. You got money there. People have been asking for it for years. Josh Keaton is the best Spider-Man. Yeah, so that's kind of it. That's basically all I read and watched during the month of January. And I didn't really do too much else. So, yeah, hopefully reading will go well in February. I have some plans for February, so yeah. So hopefully it will go well. Well, I should get wrapping up on this video before I go on for too long. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I do a lot of things. I am on Twitter. I'm also on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. You can also find me on Instagram and Blue Sky. I don't use Blue Sky very much, but I am starting to change on that. Like, subscribe, comment. As my buddy John Minton likes to say, it feels good when you do it. So like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next month for the February wrap-up. So let's get going, shall we? Until next time.